Welcome to the City of Montgomery, Alabama's virtual town hall on Citizen-Centric Reporting. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Reagan Lee, City Commissioner representing District 3, and alongside me are the Honorable Ian Trott of District 7 and the Honorable Michael Brockman of District 2. This evening, we are hosting a virtual town hall to present our Citizen-Centric Report for the fiscal year 2020. We're soliciting feedback and answering any questions you may have. The Citizen-Centric Report, or CCR, is an annual report to our citizens that provides an overview of the city performance for the past year. Producing the CCR and reviewing it with you tonight is an extension of our values of transparency and accountability within the City of Montgomery government. Tonight, we will review information included in our report, starting with an overview of the city and a reflection on major accomplishments from the past year. We will then detail our city's mission and strategic goals for the community, followed by city performance for fiscal year 2020 and a discussion of financial performance results and trends. And finally, we will discuss challenges we see facing the city and how we plan to address the challenges of today and tomorrow. Since tonight's town hall is taking place virtually, please feel free to submit any questions via the chat box. We will be answering questions periodically throughout tonight's presentation. And once again, our aim of the CCR and this town hall is to review information that is most important to you. So please submit any questions and feedback on the report or tonight's presentation to our dedicated email box at ccr@montgomeryal.gov. I will now hand it over to my colleague, Ian Trott, for an overview of the City of Montgomery.
Thank you, Reagan. Although most of you are familiar with our great city, I'd like to take this opportunity to review some highlights of our city and all that Montgomery has to offer. Recently celebrating our bicentennial, the City of Montgomery serves as the state capital and is the third largest city in Alabama. Our city government is led by Mayor Stephen Reed and the 9 members of the Montgomery City Council. The primary goals of our government are to provide outstanding public services to our citizens, to construct new public facilities where needed, and to recruit new business and encourage the expansion of existing business. Moving on over into some demographic information. Note that the majority of this demographic data is obtained from the U.S. Census Bureau, and 2019 data was the most recent year available due to processing of the 2020 census. There are 2 areas I'd like to highlight. First, our median household income increased by 8%, roughly from $44,000 to $48,000. Second, our community is also becoming more educated, with both more residents obtaining high school and college diplomas, with both rates of residents with high school and college diplomas increasing by 1%.
Ian, it looks like we have a break here. Would you mind answering a question from the chat?
Yeah.
One of the residents, she wants to know how the poverty rate that you have listed there, how is that determined?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. And thank you, Michael, for bringing it up. So the poverty rate is determined by the U.S. Census as well. It's a statistical estimate based on estimated household incomes compared to the household's needs. And when a household's income falls below the poverty threshold, which is based on household size, number of children, that kind of stuff, the household is included in the poverty rate. We also have a few achievements we have to go over and highlight from this past year. First, the construction was completed for Montgomery's 187th Fighter Wing at Maxwell Air Force Base, which is now home to the F-35 Lightning II jet, serving as a testament to our community and the legacy of the Red Tails. City of Montgomery maintained and received its first AA bond rating from Fitch, and we also received a AAA score in our operational performance. This is a boon to our city's financial strength, and it speaks to the dedication of our finance team and our sustainable financial practices. More recently, this past December, the city hosted the 7th annual Camellia Bowl, which drew 2.6 million viewers. Montgomery's 2020 Camellia Bowl, held at the historic Crampton Bowl, marks the 29th college football game played on Christmas Day. And this past Community Bowl is the first Christmas Day bowl game to be played east of the Mississippi River.
Ian, sorry to interrupt. We actually got another question. The citizens questioning, didn't we already have a AA rating?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, the city previously received a AA rating from Standard and Poor's ratings, which we've continued to maintain. This year was the first year we also received AA rating from Fitch Ratings. I hope that answers your question. This past year, we were also acquired the Garrett Coliseum, a 12,500 seat multi-purpose arena. We plan on renovating the Coliseum and increasing amenities to draw more sporting events, expos, and concerts to the venue. In the past, the Garrett Coliseum has been host to Elvis, Elton John, and Prince. And with these renovations, the possibilities are endless. Our Montgomery Internet Exchange, or MG Mix, is a local network that dramatically boosts internet speeds, improves connectivity among local research institutions, and expands data capacity. This past year, MG Mix utilization increased by 25%, and we believe that the initiatives like MG Mix will continue to attract new businesses, expand Montgomery's presence as a technology hub, and further diversify our local economy. Finally, our Montgomery Zoo continues its expansion, attracting an increasing number of returning and new visitors. The zoo has recently purchased a new train and is in the process of fundraising to construct a new reptile facility. And although negatively impacted by the pandemic, like most in-person facilities, the Montgomery Zoo continues to be a prominent destination for families of our city and the region. And with that, I'll go ahead and send it back over to Reagan.
Thanks, Ian. So our goals for the CCR in this presentation are to present information that's useful to you, engaging the performance of our city. To highlight what Ian said earlier, the primary goals of our government are to provide outstanding public services to you, construct new public facilities when needed, and to encourage economic development by recruiting new businesses and supporting the growth of existing businesses. We use those goals in identifying performance indicators that will be most useful to you, but we're always looking for input on what's more helpful versus what's not. For example, this past year, the city adopted the ambitious Envision Montgomery 2040 plan, which was a collaborative effort of more than 1,000 residents set to design a bold and aspirational vision for the community. You can check out that plan at envisionmontgomery2040.org. And also, we have a URL here. Any ideas for the community, please submit them. We want to hear what's important to you. One of the metrics we think is most important to our citizens is economic development within the city. The job market is a great indicator of this, and that's why we include the number of jobs and unemployment rate in our CCR. This past year has been an outlier, although in 2019, we reached a low in unemployment rate of 2.6%. The COVID pandemic drastically increased our unemployment rate to 8.6%. We saw a similar trend in economic activity when looking at business licenses and building permits, but fortunately, construction was not as severely impacted by the pandemic. Another important function of our city is public services we provide, largely in terms of public works. In terms of street maintenance, our street resurfacing was slowed in 2020 due to the pandemic, although we have continued our steady growth in expanding access via street mileage. We also saw an increase in refuse collection, again, as a result of the pandemic. Fiscal 2020 was overall a great year for public safety. Again, one of our missions is to keep citizens safe. We saw a 30% decline in arrests and declines in both violent and nonviolent crimes this past year. We anticipate that these improvements are partially due to the pandemic, but are optimistic that this trend will continue. And finally, parks and recreation. Another beneficial side effect of the pandemic was increased use of our outdoor recreational facilities. We saw a lot more people playing golf this past year, and our expanding park acreage provided another safe opportunity for people to enjoy the outdoors. And finally, we were only able to include a short amount of data that's available in our CCR in this presentation. But in our efforts to be transparent and accountable, we provide up-to-date information via Open Data Montgomery. You can access it via opendata.montgomeryal.gov. don't include the www. And that has a ton of dashboards where you can look for data that's most important and interesting to you. To facilitate easy access, we also include QR codes to this website in our CCR. It's just like when you're at a restaurant, just pull out your phone and scan it, and hopefully you'll increase ease of access and you can easily pull up this website.
Reagan, before we leave this section, we had another chat question that I think we should address. He's asking about the status of the city's recycling program.
Great question. So our current partner is with Repower South, who processes all of our refuse, and they actually separate out recyclables. Unlike a lot of cities, we don't ask for citizens to separate recyclables. We actually separate all recyclables from all refuse that's collected at our Repower South facility. We did have a lapse in partners a few years ago, but even then, we've seen a dramatic increase in recyclables collected, given that all the refuse is processed. Great question. But that wraps up our review on city's performance. I'm now going to hand it back over to Michael to review our city's financial performance.
Thanks, Reagan. Like many of you, we spent the last year balancing the new normal post-pandemic, balancing our resources, both the resources that were available to the city and the resources our citizens asked of the city. And we're very proud to say that we were able to get through that entire period while avoiding furloughing or laying off any city employees. We did this by creative adjustments in our merit raises and how we managed health insurance increases, and by letting the natural turnover and attrition in our workforce do some of the work for us. Now, as you can see here, our sales tax revenue is our largest source of revenue. And in fact, last year, our revenue from sales tax increased by 4%, driven by all the grocery shopping, home improvements, and online shopping that our residents were doing last year. On the expenses side, we had to creatively adjust, and we did some cuts within our public safety budget and within our culture and rec spending that helped keep us on a good plan financially. For more information, our comprehensive annual financial report can be found on our city website, and a QR code for easy access is included in the CCR. Remember, our financials are always annually audited, and we've received clean opinions from our auditors. Finally, I would like to highlight the exceptional work of our finance department. Our city is regularly awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting by the Government Finance Officers Association. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Ian to talk about challenges within Montgomery.
Thank you, Michael. So starting off with some city challenges, obviously the first thing that comes to mind is in 2020 was the COVID-19 pandemic that has been happening. I would like to start off by saying we're still striving to keep our citizens safe during these unprecedented times, and that we will be partnering with the county and state to assist in making the best decisions for our future. I also would like to bring everyone's attention to our website, as we will continue to have live updates on our COVID-19 responses and any notices thereof. Some things I'd like to point out is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, online purchasing program that we started in March of 2020, where we're able to help people who qualify and may not be able to get out to have groceries delivered. There's also a relief fund for nonprofits, and utility services provided by Alabama Power and Spire will not be disconnected for any customer experiencing financial hardship as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And with that, I will pass it over to Reagan.
Thanks, Ian. So 2020 was also a year where we saw some of the largest and most widespread protests in the country's history as part of the Black Lives Matter movement. And so racial equity was another obvious pick for challenges facing our community. And the history of Montgomery has never felt more relevant than what we saw in this past year. To address racial equity in our city, one of our first goals is police reform. Our Chief of Police, Ernest Finley, has heard the call for change and has been acting to decrease excessive police force. We are following a national model called 8 Can't Wait, which outlines 8 measures to save lives. Our police department has also seen great improvements in community policing measures, which increase trust, transparency, and accountability. We saw results of this past summer with as Montgomery was the only city in the state of Alabama that did not suffer damage during the civil unrest. But racial equity does not stop at police reform. Further work is needed to safeguard equal rights, discrimination in housing, unemployment, and other areas our citizens may experience discrimination. Mayor Stephen Reed has promised and proposed such an ordinance, and it's currently under consideration as of this meeting. It's clear that our city and country still have a long road ahead, but there are many signs of progress we can point to, like our court square. Once the center of slave auctions, as pictured above, this past summer the fountain was painted by local artist and businesswoman Michelle Browder with Black Lives Matter. And I think that's an inspirational change that we can reflect on at this moment. But I'm going to now hand it off to Michael to review economic development and our goals there.
Thanks, Reagan. Maintaining the economic strength of the city is one of the foundational goals of the City of Montgomery's government. And we're happy to say that last year, the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund recognized the work that the City of Montgomery did and our stewardship of financial resources for inclusion in their City Start initiative. The City Start program helps city governments achieve their financial goals. Last year, we also launched a new $50 million capital improvement plan to help reinvest in the city. Additionally, revitalizing the city last year through a new minor league baseball stadium and a riverfront park that I hope you've all had a chance to enjoy this summer. Finally, the mayor announced grant programs for 14 local neighborhoods to continue to reinvest in our citizens. Our tech lab and the MG Mix program that we announced earlier also help to attract technology firms and other growing businesses. Lastly, we want to leave you with some additional informational resources on Montgomery's strategic plan, Open Data Montgomery, and COVID-19. And we also want to leave you with a reminder that this conversation is part of a continuing dialogue we want to have with you, our citizens. So let us hear from you. Let us know what additional information you would like to see from us and any questions, comments, or feedback that you would like answered. And with that, I would like to wrap up this call and wish you all a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
So as part of this program, I learned a great deal about the complexity within the accounting that city governments have to go through. In particular, about all the various grants and tax revenue sources that the cities have available to them. It's a lot different from the straightforward revenue from a customer that I'm more experienced with. And it shows that there's a lot more to government accounting. As someone who likes to work on hard problems, it actually makes me interested to work in city government going forward.
Yeah, and through this project, I was able to learn more about the scope of what a city government actually does. I haven't had a lot of experience in this field, and I am excited to see everything that you guys are doing.
One of the things I found most interesting in doing this project, reading through the reports, watching city council meetings, was the amount of complexity involved in addressing what an outsider might even consider a simple problem, like a business operating without a business license. The amount of players involved, whether it's different jurisdictions, different stakeholders, different citizens, businesses, it really gives me appreciation of just the complexity and difficulty in solving some cities' problems.